Welcome back to the Build Your Empire podcast. And today I am joined by Milli Fox. Now, Milli is a mum, she's a business owner, but she has a really interesting story about how life changed, when we get thrown these curveballs, and especially, the ones that change our life as well. So, Milli, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to tap into your story. But let's start with, who was Milli as a little girl?
Very interesting question to start with. I love that. Thanks for having me, first of all. Okay, so who was Milli as a little girl? Milli Fox was actually Emily Andrews as a little girl.
Okay.
Yeah. So Emily Andrews was she was a very high achiever from the start, just out of the gate, wanted to shine and wanted to show everybody how well she could do at everything, I think from the youngest age possible, I was very curious and wanted to know how things worked and wanted to figure things out for myself. And I was always very interested in school and learning and all of those different pieces, and learned very quickly that I could get a lot of validation from my performance, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Very, very young, for sure.
Where did that come from, do you think? Knowing what you know now, who was the overachiever or high achiever out of your mom or dad?
Definitely my mother. So growing up, my mom was also like a star. She was a sparkling, shining, talented woman. She was an artist. And she unfortunately suffered from a lot of mental health problems and substance abuse issues. And she set really high standards for me, right? I'm sure she had those same high standards for herself that she felt that she couldn't even, manage to uphold, right? And I think that's probably what led her to the substance abuse issues and all of the other things that led to a lot of chaos in my young life. And so I think that perpetuated the belief that I had that if I just performed well, that I could, outrun all of that, essentially.
Wow. And did that lead to burnout?
So I have quite the story.
Let's get into it. I mean, obviously, as you growing up, you've got this belief now that I have to do more to be more. And then that transpiring into, even adulthood, parenting, and then business. I mean, what did that look like?
So I would say in high school, I was really overdoing it. Super overachiever in high school. I was on more clubs and the student body council and the choirs, and I had a job and I had the high school sweetheart. I had all of the things going on. I was not at home as much as I possibly could avoid being there. And when I was in grade 11, my mom actually was going through a lot of health issues. She was also abusing prescription drugs at the time. And I had a stepfather who actually passed away when I was in grade 11. He had a massive heart attack in the ensuite bathroom of their master bedroom. And that, I think, just threw me into a depression. I didn't even realize what it was. But when I hit my final year of high school, after that had happened, I quit everything. I quit everything except for choir because that gave me life. And I flew under the radar completely. I just disappeared off the map. I had done all of my advanced courses earlier in high school. So my last semester of high school, I did co-op, musical theater in the morning, and then I would leave. And everybody was like, where'd you go? Where'd you go? And I just dropped off the map completely. Actually, I started smoking pot. I really took a turn at that time. I had already secured my scholarship and everything. So I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. And I would consider that my first round of burnout for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And isn't it crazy how those patterns follow, right? Where you started to reach for substance to soothe, the same as your mom, right? And these are the things that I think, we learn so much more in business about ourselves than we do ever about whatever it is that we're doing, teaching or showing people. And it's
Absolutely.
so crazy to see these patterns, but when we're in it, we don't see it. It's
Absolutely.
just what happened, and
Yeah.
well, that's just how it was, that's just what I did. But it's literally, the past repeating itself.
Exactly. And I had no one checking in on me. My mom was completely checked out at that point. I only saw my dad every other week, and he was, a city and a half away. So nobody was really paying attention. No one really noticed what was going on with me. So it just sort of happened. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do the thing, go to university. But at some point I was like, why am I doing this? So I decided to leave university and move to Toronto. So the big city, right? Yeah. I left my smaller suburban town and moved to the big city. And, I went down a little bit of a rough path, not too bad, but I would say I got into mental health issues, anxiety, and more, partying of sorts. Nothing too major, but I definitely strayed from my path for a few years there in my late teens. So let's put it.
Yeah, wow. And, I think we all have, but it's whether or not you have that. I don't even know whether sometimes it's just the person around you that can help you get out of it. Sometimes you can get out of it yourself, but I feel like there's a moment in time. And I remember what it was for me. Like, do you remember what it was for you where you were like, something has to change?
Well, I met my ex-husband.
Right.
That's what happened.
Right.
I was 19 and I met my ex-husband, and he was 7 years, almost 8 years older than me, and kind of, reflected back to me, you can't live like this. Right. And then I fell under his control, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. At a certain point, I was told, you don't have any parents, so somebody's going to have to parent you.
Oh, damn. And you obviously believe that, right? Like, because the little girl in you would have been craving for that person to show you the way.
I'm sure there was some part of me that felt some kind of goodness about it. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So then what happened?
I spent quite a few years in that relationship. I was, caught up in it for, well, let's see, what was the dates here? It was 2008 to 2022. Let's put it end of 2022. So that's
a big chunk of time.
That's a lot of years. Yeah.
Big chunk of time. Now, in that time, did your body tell you this isn't right? Like, this isn't right. Something's not right here.
Many times. Yeah. Many times.
Wild. Isn't it wild? Our internal navigation knows before we know, but we were never taught to trust it. I mean, I don't know about you, but were you ever told, like, trust your gut? Or were you told, like, no, just do the thing. You do what's right. You don't do what you're feeling. You do what's right.
Exactly. Wow. And the way I rationalized it in my mind was that it was better than what I grew up with. I thought, this is healthier than what I had growing up, so it must be good, Oh
my God. And I'm resonating so much with this story because, for me, it was abuse as a child. And it was like, but it's better than what the other option is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the other option was even worse again,
Right. So I grew up.
It's wild because you stay in the most craziest. I mean, as a child, I had no choice, right? But I was put in and stayed in so many of the most wildest situations because it was like, but this is what you deserve. Like, this is it for you.
Yeah, I don't even think I had the thoughts of this is what you deserve because there were so many things that kind of masked it. So I grew up, like you said, abuse, physical abuse. My mom would, come at me.
Yeah.
All sorts of violence. There was also emotional abuse and a lot of name calling and psychological abuse. So because I didn't have the overt chaos and physical abuse, I didn't really think that the other things were as bad, right?
Yeah, it's not bad enough. No one's bashing you, right? It's
Yeah.
not bad enough. Yeah.
And there was, there was some money. There was a family that was still together on the other side of it. So I thought, oh, I never had any of this before. I never had a family that was this close knit. I never had experiences like this or support like this before. And that felt like, okay, well, this is a better future for me.
What switched? I mean, obviously you said ex-husband, right? So something changed. What switched? I mean, was there a moment where you were like, I've had enough? Or was there a moment when you actually realized your worth?
Took so many moments. It took so many moments, stacking. But it took many years of me doing healing work on myself, because my life mission was to never end up like my mother. And there were multiple times, at least 2 or 3 big aha moments where I looked in the mirror and I said, oh, you're being just like her in this regard, or you're being just like her in that regard. There were milestone moments, and I did make big changes at each of those moments, but it took a long time to get to that moment. So one of the big catalysts for me was having children. So I did have my son in 2017, and that was really tough. Like, becoming a mom was way harder than I expected it to be, because I had such a fried nervous system. And then on top of it, lack of support, and really not understanding how alone I was.
Did you think by having him that it was going to make everything better? Was there a portion of you that was like, oh my God, like this is it? Because I know there was for me when I had my eldest daughter. It was like, oh my God, like this is now I'm going to grow up,
I think there was a huge part of me, because I had started therapy before I became a mom, like really finally decided I was going to go all in on like a proper healing journey with support, not just self-help books, right? Because I did the self-help thing for many years and bypassed a lot of things. And then after I had my son, I just figured that it was like that for everyone. It's funny because the older I get and the more people that I meet, I realize that becoming a parent shouldn't have been as hard as it was for me. I mean, I know it's hard for everyone, but hearing the experiences around sleep and stress and support and mental health, I realized that my experience was a lot tougher than a lot of other people.
He would have been vibing off you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I am seeing that now in him, that that anxiety and the nervous system I had when he was a baby is starting to, show itself at this point. Whereas, so that's what happened. Things were really tough. And then when my son got to toddler years, we decided to have another baby. And again, I always looked to the circumstance. I always thought, oh, it's tough because of this. It's tough because of that. I blamed something external instead of going, oh no, there's something actually really wrong within this relationship. And then when I had my daughter, my ex kind of, pivoted over to my son, because he wasn't very helpful in the early years. He didn't really know what to do. And I just noticed that things, again, got worse in a way. And then I was being criticized for my mothering as well. It just kind of continued, because then now I had 2 kids and I wasn't doing it right.
Yeah, you weren't doing enough. There goes that pattern again, right? Like you weren't doing enough. Yeah. Isn't it crazy that we get criticized from people that aren't even giving it a go?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I was receiving criticism from multiple sides. And this is the first time that I'm telling this story as candid.
Thank you. I love how juicy this is, but it's so real, because there's so many women that are going to listen to this and go, either that's me right now.
Yeah, and it's so hard to realize it and then find the strength to get yourself out of it.
And
as well.
what did getting out look like for you? I mean, was it like a fairly decent exit, where it was like, okay, I'm going, and you were kind of just able to go, or did you have to work through years of push and pull as well?
It took about 5 years for the whole thing to come to a point where I could actually leave.
Yeah,
So
wow.
the first time I was threatened with divorce was at my son's first birthday party. And that was actually insane and traumatic because my dad had a seizure and didn't make it to the party because he had a seizure on the sidewalk, and was rushed in an ambulance, and I couldn't understand where my dad was. He's always on time, he's always there. And then that led to a fight, and then I was threatened with divorce for the first time, and then there was many threats of divorce over many, many years.
As if it was going to be a bad thing for you, right? Like that's what you would have felt in the moment. You would have been like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. There's that little girl again. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I need to do more. I need to be more.
Right.
Yeah. How crazy. And that would have just triggered those internal, early on wounds where you would have felt like you needed to do more. Yeah.
So what I figured was I needed to fix myself.
Yeah. You're the problem.
I was the problem, and I needed to work harder so that my relationship could get better. And then, I just continued on. Exactly. And I wouldn't be a failure, because in my mind, if I got divorced, I failed because I wanted to have the happy family and rewrite the story and not have a broken family.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? That's a societal thing, right? Where, if your family's still together, then you've made it. Like it's perfect. But I don't believe in this day and age that that's true. I just don't believe that the way and how fast things move in this world right now, I just do not believe that an all-together family is success. I believe that somebody may be not fully speaking their truth in a lot of cases, and I know for me, I was exactly the same. I was like, I don't want to have 3 different husbands, and, and this is what my mom did. I didn't want to have that. I wanted to be able to have one marriage, all the children from the same marriage. But in order for me to fulfill that, I would have had to abandon myself.
Yeah. And so we did abandon ourselves for a period of time, absolutely, until we realized. And it's not easy to make that move because there's that part of you that says this is selfish.
What if it doesn't work? What if I can't look after myself?
Yeah, there was a big fear there, like, how am I going to do this all on my own?
And what happened? Obviously, you made the jump 5 years later. You had to completely rebuild yourself as a human because what was normal for you isn't normal anymore. What did that look like?
So really the situation was, I knew.
Is this when Milli Fox was born?
No, Milli Fox was born in those early actually 18 or 19 years old. I started going by Milli because I was in a band. It was actually Milli Fresh to start with, because I was the lead singer of a electro pop rock band at the time. You're frozen. Okay. Hello.
Where you left off. Milli Fox was born. When was Milli Fox born?
Milli Fox was born when I was 18 years old. Well, not Fox. That became my name when I got married, but it was Milli Fresh. Milli Fresh was the lead singer of an electro pop rock band.
Do you know what? Is this on YouTube or something? Because I'm going to have to go and have a look at this.
It's not. It's not
really,
anywhere.
You've got to send it to me. I have to see this.
I have a Google Drive folder of music, but I don't have any videos, unfortunately. We did record an album. It was really awesome. My favorite song that I wrote was called Fuck You, I Just Want to Be Friends.
Really? You have to get me a copy of this.
It's a banger. I'll send you the Google folder.
Yeah. have to hear it. Maybe we'll put a little snippet at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, maybe you can. That'd be so funny.
You know, we touched on the fact that, right, you'd left, yeah, and you needed to start rebuilding. What did that look like for you? And I'm guessing you had to then think about from a career perspective, right? You've got kids now. You can't just throw yourself, you know, ideally into full-blown corporate career style life, because you've got these two little humans now that rely on you.
Yeah, I want to back up for a minute to share a little bit more of the process for anyone who in this situation. So the first thing I did, luckily we had, you know, an extra room in the house. I moved myself out of the master bedroom. So I gave myself that space. It was about 9 months before I actually left the house that I stayed in that other room.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then, so the timeline was November, my mom passed away in the beginning of the month. And I had a difficult relationship with my mom, but the last year of her life was the best year that her and I ever had together. Like, I'm very grateful to, you know, to God for that experience, because I got to heal a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what happened after she passed, obviously I was grieving, really was the very, very final straw for me.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she gave me a bit of a gift in a sense, because, you know, I knew there was going to be at least something for me. And I think in my mind, it didn't click that way at the time, but I think that is what gave me that like little extra bit of cushion to say, like, oh, my mom was not well off. Like, let me tell you, she was on disability for my entire, from the time I was like 12 years old or something like that.
Well, yeah.
She didn't have much, but I knew at least it was like something. And so I was able to move out in the April after that. So that was like the timeline there. So there's still a few months before I made that jump. And you're right, I did need to figure something out. Luckily, I had a little tiny bit of a cushion to figure things out, enough to, you know, make sure my rent was going to be paid. And the settlement between my ex and I took quite a while. So it's not like I had that all right away. But, and it wasn't crazy either, because I had signed like a prenuptial agreement when I was 20 years old that I didn't understand at the time. So there was that.
There was that.
And I got into sales. That's what I did. I got into remote sales.
Wow.
And I was coaching. I've been a coach since I was 23. I started in personal training, and then I went into nutrition and fertility nutrition, and then I got into life coaching. And I've been a coach for a very long time, but I was also a mom first. So I was not the main breadwinner. You know, when we split, my daughter was not even 2 years old yet, and I breastfed my babies. I co-slept with my babies. Like, I did the whole thing, you know? So I was like, what am I going to do? Because I never worked in corporate. I never had a, you know, a position that I thought like, oh yeah, that's what I would go apply for. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So I got into sales. I did take a job for a short period of time. And I ended up getting fired like right before Christmas. Was like,
at the moment you realize that you're like unemployable.
It was crazy, because I was doing great and they were like, you're such a rock star, we love you. And I was like, what more can I do? You know, I'm an entrepreneur by heart, by spirit. So I was always looking for what could I do for this. It was a startup. And they blindsided me and they fired me right before Christmas. And I was like, you realize I'm a single mom and I just moved into a new place, and like, wow.
But it was a gift, right? Because you were playing small.
Yeah. So then I got into sales. I got into appointment setting and remote closing for other coaches with high ticket programs. And I had really great experiences. I ended up making really great connections. And the skill itself just changed my life. It changed my confidence. It changed who I am as a person. It changed the way I view opportunity. And just everything. I think every
Yeah.
woman should learn sales.
I think, if you learn the art of sales, you're never going to struggle. And it's not because you're just going to go and sell to people, but it's because of the confidence you need to become somebody that can sell, the communication you need to become somebody that can sell, the fact that you've got to put yourself out there. I think it harnesses so many powerful skills within the one that if you master that, the sky's the limit as to what you're going to be able to do.
And it was such a perfectly aligned opportunity for me, because I always imagined, and I was on the path to growing my own personal brand before I left. I had my podcast rocking just like yourself. I was co-authoring books. I was building my brand very nicely. I unfortunately had to make a huge pullback on it for a few years while I sorted some things out. But here I am again, just right back on that mountain climbing again, which I had no doubt that I would do. But I'm so happy that I had that side quest into sales, because I got to see in the back end of 7-figure coaches' brands and how they ran, and the systems and the operations and all of those different pieces. So it was such a gift.
Oh, how awesome. Milli, as we wrap this up, what would you say to somebody that is either in the position you were in or transitioning out? Because it's going to be the hardest time of her life right now. And, what would you say to her that you wish someone had said to you? Or what would you give to her? Is there a book? Is there a YouTube? Is there something that you would be like, do you know what? This changed the game for me. And I know it's going to do the same for you.
Oh, that is such a tough question, because there's so many things. And this is what I do now. I teach women how to trust themselves. I teach women how to create an unwavering internal compass for themselves.
I love that.
The biggest book for me that ever had an impact on me this was before the divorce, but I've since read it multiple times over and over and over again, is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown.
The Gifts of Imperfection. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, I call it my Bible, and it's been incredible. And then I wouldn't say this is a close second, but it had a really, really big impact on me. It's called Existential Kink. And this book is about beyond radical acceptance for every single part of you.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to put those in the show notes for people to go and check out, because I think it's sometimes that one gift that you just gave of, one beacon that somebody can just, grab and hold on to, that's going to help them just take that next step, or help them just start to love themselves a little bit more, especially when we've been stuck in these patterns of, pleasing everybody else and being everything for everybody else rather than being what we need for ourselves. Milli, this has been one of the best podcasts, because it's so real and it's so raw on so many people's journeys right now, and especially women in business. A lot of us overachievers are the ones who have come from diabolical messes, and the most crazy of stories. And our gift to ourselves was to keep going. And our gift to our family and our kids was to keep going. So I am so grateful that our paths crossed. And I am going to hold you to that Google Drive. I want to hear this. Lead singing position in a band.
Yeah.
But, this is the power, right, of communication. And this is the power of having the guts to expand your network and find out, what are people doing? Where did you come from? What's happening? Come and speak on my podcast, because, I think that, again, so many women are not succeeding in business because they're talking more to themselves than they are to other people, so.
Very true.
I love that we were able to, lead from the front with this. So I massively appreciate you and love that you're now in my world. And let's do it again sometime. Let's do an update.
Yeah. Well, we can give a little cliffhanger, for the next one, is that I'm engaged now.
Okay, so we're going to have the engagement, the wedding, and then the happily ever after version. And we want to know, like, how did you shift as a woman in that process? So we are definitely doing a follow-up.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. Thank you so much, Millie.
I got it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.